All right, today we got a special treat from the boat garage. We're gonna be building a rod or two. We got a spinnerbait rod and a jerkbait rod we're gonna build. So for the spinnerbait rod, it is a NMB 862. And my jerkbait rod, which is gonna be a crankbait blank, which is a blend of graphite, which has a real parabolic bend to it for treble hooks, and it's a CB 845 in a smoke color. So as far as components go, I got the carbon fiber grips. The butt grip is on order. I had to back order it. I got the EC SM. This is a 11.5 diameter for the rod to fit. That's gonna be for the crankbait one, and a 12 inside diameter for the spinnerbait rod. Then I got the little winding checks for my, it's gonna go on the ends just to decorate, finish off the handle grip part. Then you got all your guides, my guide train. And this is all Fuji products, for Fuji rest, Fuji rings, guides. And the ring material is alkanite. Got the little tips, got hook keepers. And that's basically all the parts you need, except for your string and your glue. And then to glue up your rod handle sections, got an epoxy, a 2-part paste. And you got your threads for your guides. And I got generation 4, the clear epoxy on your threads. So for the jerkbait rod, it's a 7-foot blank, but we're gonna cut it down to 6'9". And I'll go a 1/4 inch shorter because the butt grip on the back is gonna take up a 1/4 inch because it's a 1/4 inch thick on the back end. We'll come here and we'll make our mark where we need to cut it. So this jerkbait rod, we're gonna cut it to 6'9". This is my arrow saw. Making building arrows. Works perfect. Now what we need to do is find a spine where it naturally wants to bend. So we know how to lay our guides out and our handles and everything. Put a little piece of masking tape on it with a little flap so you can see it roll and snap back to where it wants to be. Push, I got a protective tip so I ain't messing with the blank. Push it on the ground, put a slight bend into it. See where it wants to bend, this flap is pointing back toward the camera. If I turn it up and let go, it snaps right back. That's where it's naturally bending. Turn it this way and let go, snaps back. So this is the natural bend. Spine. Soft part of the spine is going to be right here. I'll just put a dot. And I'll turn it over opposite of where the dot was, where it's wanting to bend up right now. I'll turn it where it bends down, so on a casting rod, your guides will be on top, on the strong part of the spine. So I'll put that directly on the bottom, that dot, and I'll draw me a line. So now that's the top of my rod. Now I'm going to measure for my reel seat. And I want my handle to be 9 inches to the back of this reel seat for a jerkbait rod. I want it short where it's not catching into your clothes. You can do some downward snaps on it. So I'm going to come up a 1/4 inch from the bottom, from zero, on my ruler, because that's going to be the thickness of the bottom of my butt grip. So that will be, I'll mark 9 inches with my little pin. 1/4 inch off. Nine inches, and that'll be where my grip stops. My reel seat stops, and the handle grip starts. slide your reel seat down. And they're short. They come in different sizes for different diameters. So you don't want to get it too big when you slide it up to here, it wobbles and it's loose and it won't be centered on the shaft. So I'll have to ream it out a little bit just to get me. I might be able to. I'm close. So I just need to ream it out just a little bit, get to my 9-inch mark. So I have a set of reamers, and they're tapered, just thicker toward the back end, small on the front, just like your rod, blank. This side needs to be thicker than this side to make it fit tight all the way through. So I'm going to find which reamer fits so I can just lightly ream it out. This one will work. Back side of the grip, reel seat, it's going to be the fatter side. So you want this to go on first onto your reamer. Alright, let's see how that does. Here's my mark. And it stops right on it. Perfect. Alright, we need to change this mark up a little bit. This will be where the reel seat's going to hit. So my line will be covered up from this little protrusion. So I'll keep it right there. I'll put my new mark here. And that's how far I know to slide my handle grip to. I'm just gonna mate up that lip. Remember, this is the top of my rod, so then you have to line everything up perfectly in line with the top. Good tight fitting around where the little finger groove is so you can feel your rod, a little sensitivity. Now it all matches up. I'm just dry fitting everything first before I glue up. Now this will imitate my reel. And being that it's a custom rod, why would you want to have all these threads sticking out? When you're working your rod, you don't want to feel threads. You want to go straight to the shaft. Get your sensitivity on your finger on the shaft. So I cut this off flush with where it needs to be tightened up. Maybe a little bit further just to be on the safe side. Different reels might fit a little different. So I'll make a mark where I need to cut it. Let's see, we cut it right here. That'll leave one thread exposed, depending on the reel. But just like cutting the rod blank, and just trimmed it out. Just so you don't have threads sticking out past the nut on your reel seat. I'll sand it down, make it smooth. Now things are gonna get messy with all this glue, so I need to make my marks. Make sure I got that grip back in the right spot. And this little wax pencil wipes off after, so it's no big deal. Put one on that end and one on this end. I sure wish that finished up flusher. Could put epoxy behind it, but I might be able to sand it down a little bit so it fits flat. Let's try that. Yep, much better. Alright, so my lines are going to end up getting covered up. So I want to mark the outsides of where I'm going to have it glued up at, so I know everything's in the right position. Get to my line that it's pointing up at. I know on the bottom side I had the dot. And this little spot where your finger groove is, I don't want to sand on it. I want it to be a good clean finish on it, so I don't want to scuff it up. So the bottom side's up. And this is where that reel handle is going to fit. I don't want to scuff it up on this side, so I'll scuff the sides up. This is just getting that polished finish off, so my glue adheres a lot better. Have something for that glue to grab. All the way through the grip. Alright, now I need to go get a paper plate to mix my epoxy in. I have to go back to our line and line it up. And that's it. Now it's just clean up. Clean up time. Getting the bulk off with my little spatula. And alcohol, lots of alcohol. Some people say that solves everything. Lots of alcohol. Clean your hands. You're just going to be spreading sticky fingerprints on everything. It doesn't dry that fast. It might be about 10 minutes before it really starts to get a little tacky, depending on the temperature. So you get time to do a good cleanup. Clean up, then clean up again, then clean up again. It seems like that glue just grows. Spreads and spreads. Find glue where you never thought you had glue before. And you don't want to ruin that pretty finish of that rod with glue spots and fingerprints. Some people use tape over different things, but I don't, because I find the tape hides stuff. You think you got it clean and you peel off the tape and there was glue that seeped underneath it in spots and never could see it. And you want to make sure there's no glue on these threads. It locks that nut down and you can't put your reel on your rod. That wouldn't be a good day. And fitting all your parts tight where it all snaps together, even without the glue, makes it so much easier when there is glue. Because you can imagine me cleaning this up and it's loose and it's moving on me, getting glue everywhere. I've done that, been there, learned that lesson. So that glue up is finished. We're gonna wipe the whole rod down. Make sure your hands are good. So everything you touch, you gotta transfer glue to. All looks good. Check our line again for alignment. You twist it a little bit. There it is. Dead on. Make sure all my gaps are closed. Good. Tight finish. Make sure my nut isn't glued. Still working. That's it. We'll stand it up and let it dry overnight. We'll let that dry up for an hour or two. It'll be hard enough where it won't slide off anymore. Might take overnight to cure completely, but it'll be workable. I can work on the rest of the rod without worrying about it moving. So I'll give it an hour or two, then I'll start on a guide train, putting the guides on. Alright, so we're going to do the guides on the jerkbait rod first. I tape the butt just so it won't mar it up, putting it in a little rotating motor here. And we're gonna, here's my guide train. We can put them on. Got your double foot, got an 8. Then it's gonna go down to a 6, and the rest are 5s and your tip top. So I got 11 and a tip top. And I got so many because this rod is real parabolic. You got a real bow to it to hold on to those treble hooks. Get you a good, won't let them tear off. You can fight your fish a lot better. And the more bend you have in that rod, the closer you have to have your guides together, because you don't want your string going from guide to guide, hitting your rod blank. So you want to keep that parabolic bend, have your line following your guides without going below your blank for the most part. A fast action rod, this is a moderate fast. On a fast action rod, just the tip, more the tip is just bending. You don't have a bend in the whole rod. So for the straight part of your rod, you can have a longer spacing between your guides. But where it bends, then you got to put a little more guides in between it, just to help out with that string contact to your blank. So we're going to use this guide tubing to hold my guides on where I get my spacing right. This tubing comes in different sizes, and I got them already cut. Pretty much just make little rubber bands with it. And you can slide it over the rod blank, and then you can slip your guides into it to hold it in place. First, I gotta grind these down so that I can feed my string onto it. I tie my threads on. It'll go up the ramp a lot quicker if you grind the tips down. And Fuji has them pre-ground already, but it's still a good hump to come up with my threads. Leaves a little crease and doesn't make a smooth transition. So I like to grind it down a little bit more. Alright, I put my guides in my rubber bands. And I tie the string to my little alignment tool. And this is something I made just to stick my handles in. to hold my rod. And this is how you test to find out where your guide spacing needs to be. Supposed to bend your rod almost to less than 90 degrees, but get close to a full bend. And they want to turn on you in those little rubber bands. So it's kind of a pain to do. But when you bend it, make sure that your line is staying above your rod blank. You're not touching. That's when you know you got the right spacing. Make it jump over itself. A few wraps before I get to my foot. Now I'll slide it all the way over to my foot. Pull it tight. Get my tag in on the bottom. Come up on that foot. Clean it up. Cut your rubber band. Pack your threads. Pull it back underneath. Put about 5 more turns on top. Hold it. Release your tension. Cut your thread. Pass it through your loop. Hold tension on it. Get it close. Do your final push and all your threads packing. Sure it all looks straight. Cut it right close to the end. Hold your thumb over it. Pull it underneath. And I cut that one a little too long. It's sticking up, fuzzing, but I'll be able to clean that up after I put the first coat of epoxy on it. And that's it. And continue on down. I got all my guys tied on now. What I do is get against the white wall and look down my shaft. On the rod blank, I use this to line it up dead center. And I look at all my guides and you'll see some will kick one way, one kick the other. I already went through it. You just tweak it, just barely twist it one way or the other, all the way down to the perfectly straight. And you can shoot an arrow straight down. Time to put our epoxy on. Got our epoxy over the decals. All the thread and accents. And all the way down the guides. Each guide probably put about 3 coats of epoxy. We're gonna mix it up. Got the Gen 4 epoxy. You gotta put equal parts. You gotta be pretty accurate. So you use the syringes. Mix it in our little cup. And we're gonna put it in our mixer. And that's the turn and mix it without putting any bubbles in it. And we're gonna do all of that while watching the Bassmaster Classic.
Yes, sir. We're coming to you from the state of Texas, Bass Pro Shops Bassmaster Open, and that's our Texas angle here. 4 competitors trying hard to make a difference. Among them, Chris Southane, who's for a good long time.
So you want to start away from your guide or your hook keeper. Put a good coat of epoxy on it. And you make your way toward the guide or your hook keeper, and it's getting the air out of that little channel where the peg is against the rod blank. So you're slowly pushing all the air out, filling it up. Get a good coat of epoxy on your first round so it soaks in good. And we're not gonna worry about our edges and our lines yet. We just want a good coating.
I need to know where to find this spot. These first 2 spots, they don't show up on the map. I wanted to fish them first thing because this wind. I don't know if I'll be able to fish this side at all.
Take some of it off, a little too much.
We've only hit 2 spots of literally 20.
We'll let that saturate and go on down the guides.
Dude, that fish, like,
Then we'll come back and we'll thin it out. We'll take a lot of that epoxy off and get it a real thin layer, and then put it on the dryer and just let it rotate overnight or for a few hours before we put the next coat. Now I'm going to heat up the epoxy, get the bubbles to rise, let it really liquefy and soak in. And I'm going to take off the excess. So it's just a thin coat. I want it turning the other way. I'll just run that brush and collect the excess epoxy. I just want to feel the heat with my hand and make sure I ain't overheating anything. Just want to liquefy it. Really make it runny. So it seeps into all those little threads and valleys between the threads and under the foot of the guides. Get a real good adhesion to the rod. Thin coats, real thin. You don't want a big football pile of epoxy on your guide tips. It just adds weight to everything. So you want to thin it out. I'm going to go over this decal. I'll start from these threads here and just come out past the decal just to cover the edge of the decal and seal it in and stop with my clear coat of epoxy.
Trying to get an even coat, which is hard to do. Sometimes it gets lumpy. It makes it real tough when it gets cold. It's thick. Put a little heat on it, stretch it out.
Alright, so we let our epoxy dry overnight. It took all day because we had a cold front come through. It was kind of cold in the basement. Usually I can get a coat in the morning, then a coat at night before bed, and then do another coat in the morning, but it went all day and throughout the night to dry. So now that we got our coats of epoxy already on, our first coat, thin coat, we'll go through and take out the blemishes. See where the threads, you gotta have your good light. Right there, there's a little dimple. That's where a thread's sticking up. From when I pulled it through underneath, it was a little too long and it came out the other side sticking up. So after you got your first thin coat, you can go back and check them all. Find all those little dimples. And we're going to cut it with a razor blade. Just shave it off. Just under the epoxy, not into your threads. Just cut that little dimple or thread off. See, there's some here. Some of them came out smooth, and some of them have a little thread sticking out. So this is what second step is. Go and just shave off those threads. Clean it up. If there's any lint or anything, we can cut it out of the epoxy. And we'll put the second coat on. I went ahead and put epoxy on them again after I cut all the little thread ends off. And you can see I got about a 1/16 on each side of the threads where I came over to seal that thread so the water can get underneath. And you want to make sure you get under the guide foot. There's a little bit of epoxy around the back side so it seals that hole so no water can get up underneath your guide and rust them out. So that's what the epoxy is, kind of like the concrete, and the thread is the rebar, and it all locks together. But you want to make sure you got all the little holes sealed up so no water intrusion can get in, and they'll last a long time. And that's it. Maybe one more coat. I'll see when it dries. Make sure I can't see any little thread lines. Got a smooth finish. And we're done. So here's the finished product. Jerkbait rod and spinnerbait rod. Carbon fiber ultra grips. Has a little soft touch to them. Fuji reel seats. Fuji alkanite guides. And I can't say enough about this jerkbait rod. It's the crankbait blank. That's probably the most rods I have is of this rod for so many different purposes. It got a crisp tip on it, but it bends in the midsection to absorb those head shakes for when you got small treble hooks, and it keeps them pinned pretty good. But having that stiff tip, you can pop it out of grass if you're running a rattle trap or a jerk bait. It's still snappy enough to walk a spook, popper, twitch a jerk bait. It's just change up your handles. I mean, I cut it down to 6/9 since you're jerking downward, so you're not hitting the water with your tip of your rod. But it's a medium heavy power, moderate fast action. Even works great for a chatterbait. Tipping the tops of grass and snapping it out. It just seems to let them suck it in easier and get a good hook set on chatterbaits. But I'll let that go to like a 7-foot rod. I'll leave it at 7 foot instead of cutting it down to 6/9. And this blank, that's Mudhole's premium blank, and it's very light. So is the crankbait rod. It's very light. It's a graphite blend, so you don't have the heavy fiberglass, but that blend of graphite gives you that moderate action to it. But the spinnerbait rod is a medium power, fast action, and it's also impressed me a lot. I've taken my spinnerbait off of this rod and put a different bait on it because I wanted to throw 2 different baits and put my spinnerbait on another rod that was a medium fast as well, and it just wouldn't. I would miss so many fish. They would bite it, and I'd get 2 or 3 cranks on them, and they'd come out. It just wasn't stiff enough to set the hook into them good. But it just seems to have awesome hook sets on this NMB 862. So it should be. It's a 7'2" blank, but I cut it down to 7 foot. Works perfect. Spinnerbaits. That's it. They came out nice. They're pretty. Pretty and light, sensitive. Everything you need.